Hello. Hopefully I am going live. I don't know. It's been a while since I've done it from my laptop. So it is spinning. Hopefully it's live. Okay, it's yelling at me. Okay. Somebody throw something up there, a comment saying you can see me. That'd be really awesome if you could. Hi, my name is Lori Herbers. I am an empowerment coach. And I'm here today to talk about embracing the fullness of love. And hopefully people are there. So first of all, you might be thinking, well, what is that? What is the fullness of love? What does that mean? Well, there's something that I called all love, because everything everywhere is from love. Everything, technology, people, plants, animals, all of that, all came from a love. And because love is an actual energy and it's a frequency that you can actually tap into. So um, learning to tune into it like a radio station. And if you've ever done anything with manifesting or anything like that, it talks about energy and frequency. Well, love has its own frequency. So you came from love, you are love. um, you came from it. You were born from and in it. But here's the thing that happens though. There's a big but. So somewhere along the way, we moved away from that love frequency. So it could have been a moment, a memory, an event. Somebody maybe said something to you, or if you ever notice, and I notice this a lot, and it irritates me now. It didn't so much before, but if you're ever out in the store before COVID and the mask and everything, but I would see like a kid singing or skipping or something in the store, and the mom's like, no, you can't be doing that. Somebody takes our magic away. So that loving frequency that little kids have, if you really want to see it in motion, watch little kids. They are pure love manifesting magic because they don't understand. Their mind doesn't process the limits that we as adults put on ourselves when it comes to being able to manifesting and standing in that frequency. They just are in it. That is how we come into the world, is in that love frequency. But somewhere along the way, we lose it, or we forget that we have that ability. So the thing is that love is the fabric that ties everything together. And so you're in that, like all the pieces of you, every moment in your life, all of those memories, all of those moments, even the ones we, wish we didn't have, or if I could just forget about that, or, that guilt and that shame, all of that is still wrapped up in that fabric of love. It is all a piece of us. It's all beautiful, all of those moments. So by embracing that fullness of love, that is how you change. That is the biggest catalyst. Like if you want to make some serious progress or serious manifesting, is standing in that love frequency, because that is where all of the beautiful things come from. All of that. So in my head, in the way that I think, that it's like a twofold thing. So the first piece of that is you're going to have to undo what's been done. All of that programming that was on, whether you did it yourself or, it was kind of helped along through, you get into schools and they want you to sit still and you can't do this and you got to do that. And you lose that sense of wonder, that love. And so that first part is reprogramming what doesn't serve you. And that means digging into your thoughts and your feelings and your beliefs. And then the second piece, though, and that's what really can bump you forward quickly, is embracing that fullness of love that you are, because that is basically what you are. You have that inside of you. And for me, the longest time, because I came from abuse and trauma, and I didn't believe that love existed for me. I completely thought I was so unworthy, and I was constantly looking outside of myself for someone to give love to me. I had it the whole time because I am love. We are all love. It's like the fabric that created us. And once I realized that and really went searching for how do I find that, and here's the thing I'm going to give you as ways to really dig into that piece of it, is stand outside and just look at everything and start to imagine the energy of the trees and the birds and the sky and the clouds and how it's all connected. Everything is already in motion, always. So what I really started to understand is the way that the sun would rise in the morning is showing love to the world, and the way that it sets at night and the moon comes out and the stars, and how everything is so connected, and the gravitational pull of the moon affects the waves in the ocean, and all of that is a love energy, all of it. And so when you think of the enormity of it, and the whole, all the galaxies and everything out there, all of that love frequency. So think about that. If you tap into all of that, think about the enormity of what we can have flow through us. Think about that just for a minute, because it's huge. Once I understood that, and that is when I found myself standing, and that's why I call it the fullness of love, everything changed. Because when you're standing in love, the way you even perceive the world, completely different. So you have that stress response where it's, what is that? Fight, flight, freeze, faint. Those are a response to stress. But when you're standing in that love, it's like there is no escalation, because that love, when you're standing in love, there is zero guilt, zero shame. You understand your worthiness. You understand why you're here. And love has all the answers. Love is all knowing. It has all wisdom, all of it. Because you think about how the whole world is interwoven together, almost like a giant cosmic puzzle, like everything connects and clicks into place. That keeps everything in motion. And once you're standing in that and you understand your place in it, you stop worrying about everything else that is outside of your control, that you're not even meant to control anyway. So all of those triggers, they don't exist anymore. Bear with me. I mean, granted, you are going to have to dig through some of those, because some of those are pretty deep. But I also want you to consider that a lot of your knowledge and your beliefs and your foundation from which you stand, you started building that when you're really little, like 4, 5, 6 years old, before you had the logical capacity to understand how things work. And so therefore, what made sense to you then may make no sense whatsoever right now. So that part of undoing, so that first part that I talked about, you really have to go in and start digging inward, which is scary, which is not embracing, because usually that is one of the things we run from, what hurts, and it keeps you then stuck. So think about all the things that you stuffed down in there. So everything that you went through to build that belief system as a little kid, things you may not even know is in there, it's still in there. It's deep in your subconscious, and you can dig back into all of that, but you have to consciously decide to do so. But you can do a lot by doing that. And the thing that I have found, that once you've made that decision that you want to know, why do I believe this, or why does this certain trigger affect me and make me get mad, or it makes me want to run away, or it makes me shrink, or it makes me feel less than. The only way you can find that is to dig in, because there was a moment in time where something happened that planted basically a seed that then, roots grow. And now these triggers, somebody says this one thing to you, and every time you're like, you on hinges, and you're like, why does it do that? Well, you can't figure that out until you start undoing the programming that you did previously. And so you have to look at it. And sometimes it's just a matter of listening to your thinking. And so maybe like a thought comes through of, or I'm always last, or this is what always happens. Whenever something good happens, something bad happens. So you have to unpack that and go, okay, why do I think that? Why is such a powerful tool? Why do I feel like every time something good happens, something bad happens? And almost like, to me, I picture a string, and I'm like, I'm just following the string back through my memories. But also note that don't force that, because we in essence, are like beautiful flowers. And when flowers are ready to bloom, you can't force them to open. You'll break off all the petals. So you have to give yourself that grace to know how far to push. Because, like I said, once you start unraveling, it will keep doing it, even when you're not paying attention. Like when you try to push, I always found that if I start getting frustrated with it, in essence, putting myself in a lower frequency, because it's best to be in that love frequency when you're digging, because love has the answers. Love is knowing, and we're connected to that knowledge. So figuring out how to stand in that love, that's why I said it's twofold. Standing in that love makes everything so much faster because, one, you're not judging yourself. There is no judgment in love. You are not condemning yourself because there's no condemnation in love. There's compassion, there's grace, there's honor. Here's the thing, that if you get anything out of me talking today, is this: love and honor. Start thinking about that. Whenever you have even a thought passes through your head and you're like, does that show me love and honor? And if it doesn't, then you're like, okay, that's a thought I need to get rid of. Why do I think that? Dig in, because usually what you're believing is something that either someone told you, it might have been like a parent's belief, you might not even believe it. And sometimes just going in there and going, do I even believe that? And you're like, no. And then what really helps to unpack stuff like that is, like, here's an example. Like for me, I thought that I was completely unlovable from the abuse and when I was younger. And so I really had to ask myself, is that true? And then as soon as I'm like, well, no, I'm like, my mom loves me and my sister loves me and my daughter loves me. That just broke that. Like basically it turned that what I thought was truth into a lie. And so it like falls away. So the more you dig in and ask yourself, why do I think that? Where did it come from? Do I actually believe it? Sometimes it's just that moment where you're like, I don't even believe that. It just kind of like falls away. And then you get to decide, what do I believe? So you can rebuild your belief system to align with you, what you actually are. And another thing about love is learning to love all of you. Embracing the fullness of love means loving your mistakes, your wrong turns. Maybe you said something to somebody, and even though you said you were sorry to them, you still regret it. That regret and that guilt and that shame is very heavy, heavy, heavy to carry. It's a very heavy weight to carry. And so when you're standing in that love, you learn to forgive yourself. That is so important. And that is something I didn't think of until somebody asked me that. Did you forgive yourself? I'm like, no. I didn't even ponder, why do I have to forgive myself for making dumb choices? And it's okay. So when you get to that point where, maybe you're, really learning intuition, because intuition is key too, to showing you where to go. And so maybe one day intuition said go left, but you went right, and then all this junk happened. And so you want to go down that, what I call a rabbit hole. You spiral down in guilt and shame, and oh my gosh, I didn't listen to myself, and that was so dumb. No. As soon as you realize, you're like, oh yeah, intuition. Oh, that's right. It told me to go left, and I went right, and all this stuff happened. But it's okay. You instantly give yourself like zero judgment and honor and love. It's like all connected. And so when you can sit there and go, yeah, that wasn't what I should have done, but I did it, and now it's over, and I'm not going to do that again. I love myself. I forgive myself right in this moment. That is where you want to get to, because when you're able to do that for yourself, you can do that for everyone else. Because the thing that I've learned is you cannot give what you do not have. So if you do not love yourself with that fullness of love, you cannot love anyone else that way. You cannot give it to someone else if you cannot give it to yourself first. So if you hold grudges and have guilt and shame toward yourself, then that's what you can give other people. It's so much easier to go down that rabbit hole with someone else. Well, did you see what they did? Oh my gosh, blah, blah, blah. We don't have to. When we learn to forgive ourselves, we can look at someone else with pure compassion, honor, and love and say, you know what? Yeah, that was probably not the best idea, but it happened, and that's okay. It is crazy how it completely changes your perspective. And that is part of it too, is learning to change your perspective of how you look at stuff. So, again, embracing the fullness of love is all about learning to find you. Why are you here? Because once you understand and love and accept all of your pieces and learn to trust your intuition and understand that everything is in alignment and you live from that place, everything gets so much easier. Especially when you realize that you don't have to control everything. I think the greatest epiphany I had one day is because I'm a control freak. I'm gonna be honest. I'm usually the person that wants to control everything and make sure everything works the way that I want it, and then then it would trigger me if something went wrong because then I didn't control it, and it's like this big spiral. So, kind of lost my train of thought. Went down my spiral and forgot what I was saying. But learning to understand that I don't have to go down that big spiral. I can stop. I can change my entire day, because there's days when you get up and maybe, how they say you woke up on the wrong side of the bed kind of thing, like something went wrong. And so now your whole day goes wonky. You don't have to. In that moment, when you get up and that one thing goes wrong, you can say, yeah, that's right. It happened. It's fine. Not going to ruin my day. You can decide right there. Our minds are extremely powerful. And if you already decide and you're already starting to program your brain to say that even if something goes wrong, I will not be moved, you will not be moved. It doesn't matter what happens. You can program yourself to have that response. You can de-escalate your stress responses by being proactive in your thing. Because whenever I hear someone say, oh, well, if this happens, I'm going to be so mad. Well, guess what? That's going to happen, because basically you just told the universe, I want this to happen so I could be so mad. I'm always like, be careful what you say. Your words have power. So instead, already be telling yourself, you know what? If that happens, it'll be fine, because I truly believe the highest good of all is always in motion, and it's always working. Oh, I remember what I was going to say now. Okay, so this amazing thought I had one day, because like I said, I like to control everything, was I almost had this moment of wisdom that wasn't mine. It just came out of nowhere, because like I said, when you're in that frequency of love, there is all wisdom. You're connected to all knowledge. And I had this moment where I was thinking about when I was pregnant. And it doesn't matter if you're pregnant or you've seen someone pregnant or you're the father, it doesn't matter. Whoever, you're still expecting a child. And so you want to eat healthy and drink lots of water and take your prenatal vitamins and get lots of rest and, do all the things that you are supposed to do to ensure a healthy baby. But nowhere, it was just this crazy moment. I'm like, oh my gosh, nowhere ever do you all of a sudden go, whoa, everybody, oh, stop. I have to form the lungs today. It's not my job. Everything is always, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. And sometimes we get in our own way. And that was like this huge eye-opening moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like trying to control all these things, especially like when I started my own business. I'm like, I need to do this, and I got 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 to do this. And that is when I had this epiphany. I'm like, there's a lot of that stuff I don't have to have my hands on, because everything is already in motion. My purpose has been in motion before I ever got here. Like the world is already doing what it's supposed to be doing. We don't have to tell the sun to rise and set. We don't have to tell the stars to come out. We don't have to tell the waves to crash against the shore. We don't have to do all of that. And yet somewhere within us, we're always like trying to control all these things and trying to be everything. And that was another word I had in mind. We don't have to be everything for everybody, especially as mothers. We think that we have to make sure everything's okay and make sure the house is clean and there's food and work our job, and we forget to take care of ourselves. But again, that goes back to that we cannot give what we don't have. And my daughter's older now, and now I look at myself, and this is one of those moments where I could go down the rabbit hole of guilt and shame, and because when I grew up, I was told that the children always come first. It doesn't matter. And so I always put her first, but then that taught her that she always comes first and that I don't matter. And I'm like, wait a minute. I don't want her to think that. I don't want her to have children and then think that she doesn't matter anymore, because I didn't do self-care and I didn't take care of myself and I didn't take time out for me. And basically what I call a love bucket. We all have love buckets. My buckets were empty for years because I didn't do anything for me. And it was so bad that when I really started trying to go through this journey of changing my life and understanding how to love myself, I didn't even know what I liked to do. I put myself on the back burner for so long, I couldn't even tell you. I was watching a video and it's like, write down the things you like to do. And I'm just going, I don't know. I have no idea. So self-care is important. Standing in love is important. Learning to love yourself. Imagine, this is what I like to tell people. So imagine you have your love bucket and you can't give what you don't have. So when all those years that I'm wanting to love people, how much love could I give them when my bucket's completely empty? I can't. I literally don't have it to give them. But as you learn to understand yourself and embrace all that you are and stand in that love and honor for self, and your bucket is full, it is so full to overflowing, you only give from the overflow. You are never going to run out when you're standing in love. So think about that. If your bucket's overflowing so much that you only give from the overflow, and then you meet somebody else who only gives from the overflow, and you meet someone else who only gives from the overflow, think about the kind of world we would have. Because here's another thing. When you're standing in the fullness of love, you see everyone as they are. No one is better. No one's higher. No one's lower. Everyone just is who they are. There's no competition. There's no need to compare. There's no need to feel more than or less than. You just are you. And they're allowed to be them. Imagine that world where everyone's accepted for exactly who they are. And they're able to love themselves and you're able to love them because you can't give what you have. But if you have all this love, imagine. That is what got me into my business, is imagine that. That's the world I want to live in. The one where I can be me. And it's beautiful. And that's the fact is, all of us are beautiful and all of our journeys are beautiful. So when you're standing and embracing that fullness of love, imagine that world. That's the world I want to be in. That's the world I want my daughter to be in. And that's the world I want my grandchildren someday to be in. Just imagine it. Just imagine. It makes me really excited. I don't even know if anyone is watching or if there's, I don't see any comments. Is anyone out there have a question or a comment? I can rattle on and on and on about love forever and ever because I love it. I love love. So a little time left. Let me see. Let me get some tips. Okay, so let's see. Tip number 1, you're exactly where you should be. That's one of the things that I've also heard a lot of. I'm too old, or I'm too young, or I'm too this, or I'm too that. No, you are exactly where you need to be. Always. There's no wrong turns. There's no wrong decisions, even though we like to try to tell ourselves, oh, I should have done that. Well, you did it. It already happened. It's okay. It's a part of your life now. And here's the thing. We damage ourselves when we think like that. And this is something I did too. I used to want to cut like all these different mistakes that I made. I made a lot of mistakes. I used to tell some of the kids, I used to be a youth sponsor, and I'm like, you can't out stupid me. I've done pretty much everything dumb that you could ever do. But the thing was, like, for years, I just imagined in my head, like, if I could just cut these pieces of my life out, it would be better. I'd be better. But here's the thing. One day I had this perfect vision of me now, and almost like you could see like all of the me's all the way down, just like year after year after year after year after, all the way to when I was born. And this, I wanted you to understand how impactful this is when you think about yourself in a bad way, or you want to get rid of this, or you want to take away that, or whatever. I'm not good enough here, and I'm not good enough there, and I'm not worth this, and whatever all these things are that you're feeling. Okay, so imagine yourself all the way, every single year of your life, all the way down to when you're just born. This is the vision that I had one day. And so I got all the way to me, and I'm just a little baby. And like, so basically I'm my age now, although this was a couple years ago, and I'm holding me as a newborn. And you're thinking, okay, because babies are pure love. There is never a baby that you held where you're not like, oh. And so I'm like, oh, it's me and I'm a beautiful baby. And that was huge for me, actually, in that moment, because I always thought I was nothing, because that's what I was told. And so I'm seeing myself, and I'm like, pretty baby, but my legs were like just gnarly gashes and blood and cuts. And I heard the voice say, this is what you do when you think less of yourself. And you want to cut this piece of your life out, and you want to cut out this mistake, and you want to cut this from your life, or this person, or this marriage, or this whatever. You actually hurt yourself. And I remember that I just started sobbing because I'm like, oh my gosh. It was this profound moment of understanding that the judgment I have on myself judged every piece of me all the way down. And if we don't get rid of that, it will just keep on following us. We will keep hurting and damaging ourselves until we learn to stop. So I changed my mind. This is what I want you to understand. If this is the only thing you take from this 30 minutes, stop hurting yourself. And it doesn't have to be a physical harm, but a mental in your thinking. I want you to start listening to the thoughts that run through your head. And if they do not show you love and honor, then get rid of them. Because you're not meant to live a life of turmoil, even if you're doing it to yourself. Because I did that for years. The words in my head that my dad had said to me just kept rolling and rolling and rolling and rolling. You don't have to. You can stop them. Our mind is so powerful, and you control what you allow to go through your head. So think about that. Think about the beauty of the world if everyone's coming from the overflow. And also think about the world of all the people that think less than themselves. Think of them, they're damaging. They're literally hurting themselves over and over and over. It's like copy paste year after year. Time to stop. It's time to embrace who you are. Because we all have a light in us. We all have a purpose, and we all have beauty. We are love. You are a piece of love. We're all interwoven. We are all connected. And anytime that you hurt yourself, you hurt everyone else. It's like I actually just had this conversation with a kid the other day, trying to get him to understand that, like, you're a pebble, and when you drop that pebble in water and it ripples, like, even you feel like the thoughts in your head are just you and you alone. But the thing is, that energy that connects us to everyone that we meet, there's an actual energy, especially when you're in a family line. Like the energy of my parents flows through me to my daughter. So it's like this connection. So think about that. So when you're dissing yourself, that energy still pulls through, because it's crazy. Like, I was very adamant when I had my daughter about making sure she understood that she was loved and wanted and beautiful and amazing, because it was all the things I never got when I was little. But it's crazy because now that she's older and she actually talks to me, the things that run through her head, that horrible mindset that I had, she has. And I have to stop and think, like, how could she possibly? Because she came from me. There's that energy that connects us to each other. But here's the kicker. When I really started diving into love, and I found myself standing in that amazing, beautiful place of all love and understanding that I could tap into it, I didn't tell her. She came to me one day and she was like, Mom, you're different. She's like, I don't know what exactly happened, but she could feel it, because that love energy is a higher frequency, like gratitude. She could feel it. Think about that. That's the next thing I want you to think about. Think about the energy that you bring forth. So when you're feeling guilt and shame and that real thick, heavy, dense frequency of lack, and you go and you meet somebody else, that's the energy that you're pulling with you. That's the energy they feel from you. And there was actually a study done, and I don't remember what it was called. It was like the power of the three or something like that. But basically, your energy, you have your energy, and when you come up with somebody else and their energy, it makes a third energy. So depending on what energy you're bringing forth is what brings that third. And that's how horrible crimes get committed between two people, because they have this bad energy and they have a bad energy, and it makes this. But it works in reverse. So if you're this positive love energy, again, giving from the overflow, meaning someone giving from the overflow creates a third overflow. That's beautiful. Now I'm just kind of rambling. But how much think about that? What are you bringing forth? What energy do you bring forth? Are you embracing love? So stop running from yourself which is another thing that's why I say embrace the fullness of love. It means instead of running from the guilt and shame or anything else that you're carrying, embrace it because it's still you and it's still beautiful. No matter how horrific it might have been, it doesn't have to keep, it can be no more. That's the thing, it can go away. You can stop it if you so choose. Okay, on that note, I could ramble forever about love. I hope that you guys get something from this. Please feel free to ask more questions, message me, whatever you want. I love talking about love because I didn't have it for so long. Even though I had it, I didn't know I had it. We all have it. If you don't feel like you have it, you do. You can tap into it. But you have to consciously choose to tap into it and to seek it. If you seek it, you shall find it. Okay, I'm Lori. I'm so glad to be able to come in here and chat with you guys. Like I said, feel free to ask questions, comments, anything at all. It was my honor to be here. Thank you so much. I hope you all have a great night or morning or whenever you watch this. That is amazing. Bye, everybody.